Graffiti in churches can be found on stone, plaster, wood, lead, and even window glass. Here are a few examples of graffiti found on wood. The wood most commonly encountered in churches is likely to be oak. This pentangle has been inscribed on top of a painted screen panel. Using a sharpened nail, I try scribing a straight line across the grain of this well-seasoned oak board. It's very hard except for the large-celled early wood where the point digs in, making the nail deviate from my intended straight line. You may hear the clicks as the nail crosses each annual ring. Ring-porous timber, such as oak, has a structure where large cells are created at the start of the growing season and then denser, small-celled wood later. In addition, oak also has very strong medullary rays. We'll talk about this later. I have a little more luck trying to create a regular straight-sided design here, but I have to press really hard. The oak is very, very hard. A penknife may be a more obvious tool to work wood. It's sharp, but gives only a very fine line. Much pressure is needed to inscribe a line in seasoned oak, sometimes needing two hands, and this means there's often little control. If I wanted to enhance the fine knife cut line by making it wider or creating a serif, for example, I have, once again, to apply much pressure and run the risk of overshooting the original design, as here. With all my experiments, I have the luxury of working on the flat. So, whatever I do here is easier than working in a church. Timber of any species is easiest to work when green, that's to say when newly felled and still has a high moisture content. Once dry or seasoned, it becomes much more difficult to work. Wooden structures found in churches will be many centuries old and very hard. You may have noticed I've only tried making straight lines. Nail or knife-incised curves would be much more difficult. Using my trusty old dividers, I now inscribe a hexafoil. I should probably have sharpened the points of wood as these drag. On the other hand, they make a reasonably wide line. The same problems with maintaining pressure on both the pivot point to keep it in place and the scribing point I realised once again. Far from perfect. Here's a transverse section of the board I've been working on to help get a better understanding of the structure of oak. When scribing across the grain of the wood, that's to say across the annual growth rings, my line deviates as I hit the softer early wood. These are the annual growth rings with the marks on the new season's growth. Their relative softness often carries the scribing tool, making a deviation from the intended course. Here's a close-up showing the large-celled early wood and the boundary between the 2 years' growth. Another important feature of oak is the inclusion of large medullary rays. 2 are shown here highlighted in yellow. These are strong-celled, radiating structures that carry water and nutrients from the centre to the periphery. When oak is sawn close to the direction of the medullary rays, called quarter sawn, the rays appear on the surface and give it a distinctive character. So, what have I learned? Because of the varying densities, inscribing a freehand design on seasoned oak is more difficult than first assumed. Evenly textured stone is much easier.